What can he do to me? Or to any of us? We have life tenure, and we have it precisely so that we will not be influenced by politics, by threats from anybody.
Did you view that as a threat?
I didn't view it as a threat. I'm not even sure I heard it.
So recently, we lost Supreme Court Justice Scalia. And I'm not trying to go conspiracy theory, but let's go over his passing. He and a few others were invited out to a ranch to go hunting in Texas. And I believe the owner that invited him, his name is Poindexter, and he's a big Obama supporter. Well, he invites Scalia to come hunting at his Texas ranch. And while there, Scalia ended up passing away. There are reports that he was found with a pillow over his face. I don't know if that's true, but let's think about the other things that happened. He was pronounced dead over the phone. How does that happen? What, did they say, hey, does he appear dead? Yeah, he's pretty dead. All right, call it. No, they don't do that. It would have to take a doctor or whoever is legally allowed to pronounce someone dead to actually examine the actual body, not over the phone. But this happened over the phone. Second thing, there was no autopsy done. Again, what the hell? There were places very close to where he passed that were able to perform an autopsy. It's kind of reminiscent of the last government official that died in Texas that didn't have an autopsy. Yeah. Again, not saying it's as crazy as that, but it brings up questions. Now, I've also heard some people say that he shouldn't have been cremated, even though it was in his will, because he was a very strict Catholic. He was part of the Opus Dei and all that stuff. People think that he would probably wanted to have been buried like a Catholic. But again, it was in his will. Now, if this was a manufactured death, who would benefit from it? And the people that would benefit from it are the liberals, the Democrats, the socialists, or whoever, right? Pretty much on the left of the spectrum, they would benefit because Scalia was a pretty conservative Supreme Court justice. His death could benefit the left. Obama now has the ability to appoint a new Supreme Court justice. Now, the Republicans are trying to block it until the next president is elected. And the Democrats, like Schumer, are saying that that's completely wrong, that they shouldn't be doing this. But at the same time, Schumer is the one that tried to block a Supreme Court justice nominee that Bush had brought up. Now, I'm not for Bush. I'm not for the Republicans. I'm a libertarian. But it's kind of ridiculous for the Democrats to say it's wrong to block a Supreme Court justice nominee when they did it themselves. Scalia was very much for personal rights and liberties. And with his death comes the possibility of a more liberal judge being appointed. Now again, liberalism isn't all bad. If you let it take over and take it to the extreme, it gets bad for people. Now when it comes to socialism and the new generations of today, there's a big generation gap when it comes to the generation my age and older that still remembers the tail end of the Cold War. We still understood what we were fighting against. And now you got this new generation that only knows about the Cold War from the history books that they read in high school. So now they learn about socialism in high school and in college, and they start to think about it, and they think it's a great idea. Now, when it comes to socialism and communism as theories, it would be awesome if everyone could help each other and everyone could be equal, but that's not reality. The big thing that takes communism and socialism out of the equation as for viable ways to govern people is human greed. Even if we were all equal, there's something that somebody else has that we would want, or we would want more than somebody else. And with that human greed comes corruption, and you know where that leads down the road. I mean, just look at all the democratic socialist countries in Europe. They're not having a great time right now, are they? Yeah. They have free healthcare, free college, all that stuff that Bernie Sanders is trying to spout to the young generations that want free shit now. They have it. But then again, look at their taxes. 50%? Like what? 50% of an income tax? That's crazy. That's crazy. I think that we could actually learn a lot from another South American socialist country, Venezuela. It's not having a very good time right now. They run out of food. It's bad down there. But yet, people don't want to look at that. They say, oh, yeah, they're having a bad time, but they did it wrong. Okay, what makes you think that you can do it right, Bernie? Anyways, back to the subject of Scalia. I think if Obama gets his nomination run through before he's out of office and before the next president comes in, that it's going to be bad for the country. Now, who's to say Hillary's not going to win the election and that nominee still comes through? We don't know. All we can do is hope. But remember, there's not just two parties out there. It's not just Democrat and Republican. You could be a libertarian like me or a free thinker and vote for who you think is best to be the executive of this country. You don't have to toe the line to a party. It's kind of like last election when it was Romney versus Obama. Gary Johnson was trying to get the Republican nomination, as well as Ron Paul. And they're both libertarians. Even though Ron Paul had a huge following, and I think he had a better following of the younger generation, hopefully, than Bernie Sanders. But the media didn't want to put him on, didn't want to show how much of a following that Ron Paul had. People were saying that Romney was the only one who stood a chance against Obama in that election. And they said if you voted for anyone other than Romney, then you were essentially giving a vote to Obama. A couple of people said my vote was wasted because I voted for Gary Johnson and not Romney. And I don't see how that's right. I don't see how that's a wasted vote. I agreed with everything on Gary Johnson's platform. I didn't agree with everything that Romney said, plain and simple. I mean, why should I vote for someone who I don't agree with totally and leave out a candidate that I totally agree with? I actually think that's a wasted vote. Mindlessly voting for somebody just because you don't want somebody else to win, even though another candidate is the candidate that you mostly agree with, I think that's a wasted vote. Even though Gary Johnson didn't win, my vote still counted because I voted. That's it for this video. I'm going to get more in depth on socialism in another video. I hope to interview and debate with a friend of mine. He's a singer-songwriter. His name's Chris Fairbanks. It'll be a good one. Take it easy.